Hello, I'm Sebastian. Welcome to Nine Nar Trees podcast. Today, I will summarize and review the book. Strategy, A History by Lawrence Freedman traces how people have tried to connect power with purpose, from ancient battlefields to modern boardrooms. Freedman, a leading scholar of war studies, examines strategy not as a fixed formula, but as a shifting way of thinking shaped by politics, culture, technology, and human ambition. The book moves across military history, statecraft, revolution, and business management to show how strategic ideas emerge, spread, and sometimes become fashionable slogans. Instead of treating strategy as a set of timeless rules, it highlights recurring dilemmas such as uncertainty, friction, competing interests, and the tendency for plans to collide with reality. Readers get a wide historical panorama that includes major theorists and practitioners, the evolution of armed conflict, and the rise of non-military approaches such as persuasion, economic pressure, and organizational planning. The result is an accessible, big-picture guide to what strategy has meant in different eras and why it remains so difficult to do well. I will give you key takeaways from this book. Firstly, strategy begins with war but never stays there. The book shows how the earliest strategic thinking formed around armed conflict, where leaders had to align limited resources with political ends while facing an adaptive opponent. It follows the development from classical and early modern ideas about generalship and battlefield maneuver to more systematic approaches that emerged with professional armies and nation-states. Freedman emphasizes a central tension: strategy is supposed to provide direction, but war produces uncertainty, misinformation, and rapidly changing conditions. As states grew more complex, strategy expanded beyond winning battles to managing campaigns, alliances, logistics, and domestic support. The book also highlights how industrialization and mass politics altered the scale of conflict, making the relationship between military means and political purposes more complicated and more consequential. Rather than presenting a single master theory, it uses history to illustrate why strategy is always contested and why simple models break down when opponents react, civilians resist, or events surprise. This topic sets a foundation for the rest of the book by clarifying that strategy is not merely planning and not merely tactics, but a persistent attempt to link actions to desired outcomes under pressure. Secondly, Clausewitz, friction, and the limits of grand designs. A major thread in Freedman's account is the influence of classic theorists, especially those who treated war as inseparable from politics. The discussion of Clausewitz centers on enduring concepts such as friction, the fog of war, and the unpredictable interaction of opposing wills. These ideas matter because they challenge the hope that strategy can be reduced to a technical science. Freedman contrasts traditions that seek decisive battle and clear operational solutions with perspectives that stress escalation risks, morale, and political legitimacy. He also explores how later strategists interpreted and sometimes misused these theories, turning flexible insights into rigid doctrines. The point is not to canonize one thinker, but to show how strategic ideas are shaped by the problems of their time and by institutions that prefer certainty. Readers see why grand designs often fail when they assume control over events, underestimate resistance, or ignore how political objectives shift. This topic helps explain why strategy must remain adaptable, why leaders need mechanisms for learning and revision, and why success often depends on managing ambiguity rather than eliminating it. Thirdly, revolution, insurgency, and strategy from below. Freedman broadens strategy beyond state armies by examining revolutionary movements, guerrilla warfare, and insurgencies that challenge conventional power. These conflicts highlight that strategy can be practiced effectively by weaker actors who exploit time, terrain, popular support, and the political vulnerabilities of stronger opponents. The book tracks how revolutionary thinkers developed approaches that combined ideology, organization, and violence to undermine legitimacy and mobilize supporters. It also considers the strategic implications of terrorism and asymmetric warfare, where the aim may be to provoke overreaction, gain attention, or polarize societies rather than win conventional engagements. A key lesson is that strategic success depends on the ability to shape narratives and incentives, not just to inflict damage. Freedman shows why counterinsurgency is difficult. It requires aligning security measures with governance, credibility, and local dynamics while avoiding actions that create more enemies. This topic is valuable for understanding modern conflicts, where military superiority does not guarantee political success and where the center of gravity often lies in public opinion, institutions, and legitimacy. Fourthly, nuclear strategy and the rise of deterrence thinking. The emergence of nuclear weapons forced a redefinition of strategic logic because victory in a traditional sense could become meaningless. Freedman examines how deterrence, escalation control, and crisis management became central concerns as states tried to prevent catastrophe while maintaining credible threats. The book explores why nuclear strategy is filled with paradoxes, stability can depend on vulnerability, peace can depend on the threat of massive destruction, and rational planning must account for accidents, misperception, and organizational failures. It also discusses how concepts such as second strike capability, mutually assured destruction, and limited war influenced military planning and diplomatic bargaining. Another key element is the role of game theory and systems analysis, which promised analytical clarity but often simplified human behavior and political context. Freedman uses this history to show how strategic thought can become highly technical while still resting on psychological and political foundations. This topic underscores the broader message that strategy is an attempt to shape choices in a competitive environment, and that the most consequential strategies may aim to prevent actions rather than to execute them. Lastly, from corporate boardrooms to public policy, the strategy industry, Freedman traces how the language of strategy migrated into business, management, and public administration, creating a broad strategy culture that treats planning and competitive positioning as universal necessities. The book examines frameworks popularized in corporate settings, including ideas about competitive advantage, market structure, and organizational alignment. It also critiques the tendency to present strategic success as a repeatable process driven by models, metrics, and visionary leadership. One recurring problem is that business strategy often assumes a stable environment where careful analysis can predict outcomes, yet markets, technologies, and competitors change in ways that resemble the uncertainty of conflict. Freedman highlights that strategy in organizations is also political. Stakeholders have different goals, incentives can distort information, and plans can become performative documents designed to signal competence rather than guide action. The most useful approaches, therefore, emphasize adaptability, experimentation, and clear prioritization. This topic connects the book's historical survey to everyday professional life by showing how strategic thinking can be applied outside war, while warning against overconfidence, buzzwords, and the false promise of control. In conclusion, this book suits readers who want a serious but readable history of strategic ideas, including students of international relations, military history, security studies, policy, and management. It is also valuable for leaders and professionals who keep hearing the word strategy but want to understand what it has meant across centuries, why it is so hard to execute, and how different contexts change what good strategy looks like. The benefit to a reader's life is practical as well as intellectual. Freedman helps you recognize the gap between plans and outcomes, anticipate how opponents and competitors will adapt, and appreciate the political and psychological forces that shape decisions. You come away better prepared to set priorities, test assumptions, and revise direction when reality pushes back. Compared with narrower strategy books that focus only on business tools or only on military theory, this one stands out for its breadth and balance. It connects classical thinkers to modern problems, treats deterrence and insurgency alongside corporate strategy, and resists simplistic formulas. That combination makes it worth buying for anyone who wants a single, well-grounded volume that explains not just how to plan, but why strategy so often fails and how it can be improved. If you would like to support Lawrence Freedman, you can buy the book through the Amazon link I've provided in the podcast description. After reading the book, please let me know what you think and share your thoughts. See you around.